And I'm excited today because I've been chatting with a fella by the name of Neil Williams for a little while now over the internet. And that's the great thing that I've found during this journey of doing the podcast and getting my fit together is to hook up with like-minded people and people that you wouldn't necessarily ever have met before. And Neil's one of those guys that we did a podcasting course together, and you'll probably hear in this interview, probably Neil paid a little bit more attention than I did to what you're meant to do in these podcasts, because I'm a bit rough around the edges. But Neil also has a really good story to tell. Recently he's been like me, as a fit and healthy young guy, and then went off the rails a little bit, not as much as I did, but he started to get the dad bod, and he thought, I've got to put a halt to this or it's going to turn into something more than I really want it to be. So, Neil, welcome to the Adelaide Real Podcast. How are you, mate?
I'm fine, thank you. Thanks for having me here, Paul. I really, looking forward to it.
I'd love to have you on, mate. So, you've got a podcast as well, and it's called the Do It Dad Podcast. And I really like the idea behind that, in the sense that, you were, and correct me if I'm wrong, you were getting to the point where, and I've seen the before and after photos. I haven't been game enough to put any before photos up yet, just of me. That'll come later when I've got a good after one to show. But I must admit, your before photo is probably where I'd like to get to, So, but you had put on some weight. You'd put on probably 12 to 14 kilos more than you really wanted to. Probably close to 30 pounds, I suppose.
Yeah.
And starting to struggle physically a little bit, similar to me, definitely. Issues with your knees. And I love the idea behind the Do It Dad podcast because, it's that support from your kids too, because you want your kids to be looking up to you, don't you? And like you did with your dad. And I don't want to steal too much of your thunder, but yeah, can you talk me through that process of how you came to start the Do It Dad podcast?
Okay. Well, firstly, podcasting wasn't anything that I'd been considering at any point when I first started on this journey. What it was originally was simply, I suppose the real catalyst was my daughters. My two daughters, I got them into a gymnastics class. We'd been waiting for a long time on a long list, chasing, trying to get them on. And when I eventually got them on, they were in the class and they were coming out, and I started feeling, I did gymnastics when I was younger. Yeah. And I got a lot of stuff to share with them. But it was very apparent that I was in no physical shape to actually show them anything. And, they used to just refer to me as, if I told them that I could do something or I tried to explain something to them, they'd literally ignore everything I'm saying. Like, Daddy's just big and fat. Yeah. He doesn't know where we're coming from, that kind of attitude. And I was thinking I could teach them, I could help them get better so quick, about really I need to be in a position to show them, because I remember when I was a kid, I started judo at age 8, and my dad was an instructor for 11 years and he ran a club for 11 years.
Wow. Okay.
So I didn't know anything about judo, but as a child, I went to his class. Yes. And that's where I discovered my dad could do acrobatics. He was the first person that taught me to walk on my hands. He was the first person.
Yeah, you found this whole new other dad, didn't you? That you hadn't seen at home.
I'd see my dad used to go to teach till I was about 8. I used to see him leave, not come home 2 nights of the week. He'd seem to work late, but that's what he was doing. He was running his class. Yeah. And turned up, thought I was just going to be doing judo. And then I realized there's a playful, because you see your dad at home and he's quite, your dad, he didn't jump on his hands and do anything. I got to judo, and there's a big mat there, and he just suddenly flip up onto his hands and start walking around the mat. I'm like, whoa, my dad can do that.
He wasn't walking down the hallway in the morning on his hands or anything.
Oh, no, we didn't. We had no clue he could do any of this. Oh, and when he saw that, we were excited. He started showing us how to do it. And the next thing I knew, he did a flip over. And we thought, where did that come from? Our big old fat dad that we thought at that time. So he was the one that got us first into anything acrobatic, gymnastic, plus the fighting. All for good health and discipline. That was what he was all about. So when I reflected and remembered how that had a big effect on me through school, through everything that I learned growing up into my 20s, 30s, it still affects me now. I thought if I could do the same for my daughters, it will have a big impact on them. They won't realize till they're older.
Yeah.
So,
it's a gift. A gift that you can pass on, isn't it?
Yeah.
That you've been given from your dad.
Exactly.
And that's what a great thing to be able to do. Because not everyone can do that. Not everyone has those skills. So if you've got them, it'd be a crime not to use them.
The thing is, I don't think I would have discovered I had those skills, or I had that ability, had I not been there and had my dad encouraging me at that young age. So absolutely. I had a bit of a head start because I did, have friends later on who were very athletic, and I think we both probably grew up in the breakdancing era, and a lot of my friends, pretty much every friend of mine was trying to body pop or break dance.
Yeah.
And, there were some guys that were just naturally athletic. I would never say I'm naturally athletic. I'm naturally small and skinny and not particularly strong. But I became very competitive at a young age.
Yes.
Due to the things I was doing, that despite my small size and my small frame, I was competing with everyone.
Yeah.
And that's followed me through all the way to my 50s. I'm still competitive, and I don't compete with people my age. I don't look at age as a limiting factor. If I see a young guy half my age do something, you guarantee I'm going to try it, even if I don't try it right in front of him, or I have to work on it for a month quietly.
Yeah.
And then do it in public. I'll go and have a go. Because I'm not ready to let go of that. These things are fun. If you view them as fun, they're not sure.
No, and that's fantastic. And that's something where I was reading through one of the blogs that you'd posted. And, they're saying there's no valid reason why we basically give in to old age.
Exactly.
That's a decision that we make, isn't it?
I agree with you 100%. That's how I've seen it. And I've seen it with my dad. I don't know if you've seen, I posted a video of my dad when he was 70. He's 80 now.
Yeah,
when he was 77. Yeah, 13. And that was his third set when I decided to pull the camera out. I said, Daddy, you need to do that again. I need to get that on video, because I go to the gym and I see guys a quarter of your age that can't do 10. And he got well, he got his chinning bar. He came around to my house one day and he saw my chinning bar, and I saw him standing underneath it, and he just kept staring at it, and he didn't go on it. And then I said, do you want to have a go, don't you? And he went, I'm just wondering if I could do a little. So he jumped on it, and he kind of struggled to do one or two, but he could do a couple.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? Because I know, I don't think too many people will be thinking of buying their 70-odd year old dad a chinning bar, but I know my dad. So I knew he quietly wanted one. So I said, okay, I'll get you one. Fantastic. So he got one, put it at home. And the next thing, about 2 months later, he walks back into my house, stands under my chinning bar again, and he jumped on it and just pumped out about 13, 14, 15. And I stood there and thought, what am I seeing here? So I said, what? So he jumped up, he did it again.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not seeing right. I said, I'm going to get my camera. You need to do this again for me to show people that age is not a limiting factor. You came here 2 months ago, you could do 2. You've taken that chinning bar home, and now you've come back and pumped out more than I see the young guys doing in the gym. Yeah. And that goes to show it's just a case of determination and willpower and wanting to be competitive. That's what it is. I mean, he's not competing with anyone. He just wanted to show his sons that he could do it.
And that's where you get it from, mate. He's gone away.
That's exactly where I get it from.
He's worked on it. He's worked on it in private. He's come back. I'll still show Neil what I can do. And he smashed them out. And I saw them too, and he wasn't kipping, he wasn't straight. They were strict pull-ups, weren't they?
He was pulling up, yeah. He was pulling up. And I was overly proud, and that's what I want my children to, feel that sense of pride about their dad. And I want them to see that, look, even though they thought daddy was big, fat, old past it, they've seen me have my knee operations and so on. I had one only last year, October. I had the medial meniscus on my left knee, 50% removed. I've already had the right knee, 50% removed. Plus, I've had a more serious operation in my early 20s, where I had a knee infection. My knee almost turned gangrene, and they literally had to cut my whole knee open. That was when my knee problems first started, and they've just got more and more and more. And my right knee, it's got to a point that the cartilage is almost worn completely away. Yeah. So I have a lot of pain in my right knee, but also I have some in my left, not as bad.
Yeah.
I was in and out of the hospital. We talked about this before, but, I was in and out of the hospital having treatment on my knee. They were injecting it, doing all sorts of stuff. And they basically came to a point and said, Neil, there's not much more we can do for your knee.
Yeah.
The only other thing we can do is offer you a knee replacement. However, your age, you're way too young for us to recommend that. We'd recommend you live it out if you can for the next 10, 15 years before you consider it.
Yeah.
At that point, I knew a friend whose dad had a knee replacement. He said, he had no pain, but he said, well, he had wanted the second one done as well before he had the first one done, but he did now changed his mind, and he told us the reason. When he's got a coal fire, he went to bend down to put the coal into the fire, and he realized he got to a certain point of bending and his knee couldn't bend anymore, even though he had no pain, and it really irritated him. So he thought, I'm not having the other one done. I want to have full range of motion with one, but I can stoop down, even if it's a little bit painful. I can go right down low. And this other one, it's got no pain, but it's limited in movement. So when he told me that, that's put me right off the idea of a knee replacement at this age. I'd rather do something myself to try and alleviate the pain. And that's what I decided to just, start losing some weight.
Yeah.
That was the first thing.
And what was that? And how did that happen? Did you just start getting back into more gymnastics to help your girls, or did you go to the gym? What did you do?
No, I've not done any gymnastics since. All that's happened is I was going to gym all along, but I wasn't doing anything to control my weight.
Right.
Just generally weights, and I always stretched to some degree, but I wasn't stretching as much because I wasn't doing gymnastics. I wasn't doing the activities I would normally do that require that. So I was just kind of, as a dad as well, I'm squeezing it in. I didn't want to get up too early in the morning. So I'm just squeezing what I could in to make sure in the evenings I can get home to my family.
Yes.
So this was the problem that I discovered being a father, that I took for granted so many years as a as a man without children.
Yes.
I go to the gym when I felt like it. Yeah. Now I've got young children. I don't want to be absent. So I tried to go to work, come home, which means I had to shift my whole training pattern, which was a real torture. But now I do it religiously. 3 days a week, I'm up at 5:20 in the morning and I head to the gym because that's the only chance I get to go.
Yeah.
But that has two advantages. I get to see my children in the evening, and also I'm quite busy with work. The type of work I do, they can quite easily say, Neil, we need you to stay late, or you need to do something in the evening, and it will bugger up the chance of doing any training in the evening. So once it's done and dusted first thing in the morning before you even started work, you've done it.
Yeah.
It's out of the way.
It's easy. Once
anything after that is a bonus. Yeah.
Yeah. It's really easy once you get into the habit. And I love that concept that you were talking about because I'm a bearded man myself. It's not looking quite as good. It's a bit grayer, but I love the beard. I love the bearded angels. Can you talk about the concept of the bearded angel?
Okay, yeah, the bearded angel is many people see, because I have got a big beard. People can't see it right now, but
you got a little bit of grey at the front. We can see.
I suppose that was the trigger behind the name initially, was the fact that I had a beard, but that wasn't actually the reason that I actually decided to take the name on. The bearded angel is when I started thinking about it a lot more when I started building the podcast.
Right.
The idea of the podcast. I had this idea about having a caricature to represent the dad.
Yes.
And then I started thinking, in a family unit, to your children, there are two angels, guardian angels, the people who look out over them, mum and dad. And simply put, mum is the fair, beautiful, petite, nice, sweet one, and the other angel can grow a beard. So I refer to that character as the bearded angel.
Angel.
And so anytime I'm talking about dads or whatever, that's the bearded angel.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of concept, and then I've decided to make a bit of a movement out of it, because of course I find my focus drifting, because I started originally just focusing on us older guys who most likely have children and so on, who want to get back into shape. After I got back into reasonable shape, I wanted to share that and try and encourage other dads or just middle-aged men or busy men in the workplace to, find some way of getting back, and just knowing that it isn't a dead end. You can get out of shape, and you just have to choose to do it. Yeah. It's a bit hard. I'm not going to lie and say it's the same as being single and young and having all the energy. It's not. No. But if you really want it, you'll find a way, and it's not as hard as you think. But
and you don't want to get to the point where, and what you did and which I didn't stop when I got the dad bod. So I went further than that and ended up with the sumo suit. Different stages, and
you're doing fantastic. I see what you. How much have you lost already?
Oh, I'm getting there. I'm a bit over 20 kilos now, so I've got a fair way to go. But it's a slow process, Neil. It's a slow process,
and I love it.
Great. Yeah, one day I might even attempt a handstand, but I'm not saying I'll do a handstand. I just might attempt.
Because it's a mindset. It's the mindset, and if you stick with it, it's just you're gonna keep going in the direction you want to go. Yeah. I'm actually now at the point I've lost more weight than I wanted to lose.
Well, stop it.
I would have actually stopped a bit earlier. I've got so into it that I needed to get down, because I was taking part in this judo competition, as you know, the European Veterans Judo Championships, and I hadn't, because of my injuries and stuff, I hadn't been on the judo mat for over a year and a half.
Yeah.
Despite people begging me, if you're going to do this competition, come back. I'm too paranoid about getting thrown onto the shoulder, because it's still, ligament and cartilage injuries could take a long time. And because I've carried on doing other training, I haven't allowed it to heal quickly, because I just don't want to stop. Partly because I'm approaching 50 and I set certain goals to achieve by that point. So I just thought, for this year, I'm not going to stop, but I've just been going gentle on my shoulder, avoiding, but definitely for someone to throw me and me land on my shoulder, that kind of shock could put my shoulder right out. So which is why I wouldn't go back to judo and so on. But I was doing a lot of other exercises that people seeing the exercise I was doing, they're saying, you can't go back to judo. I'm like, yeah, there's a little bit of different. I'm in control of the pain or the stress that is on my shoulder. Whereas if someone throws me and lands on me, I'm not in control. I'm going wherever they throw me. And that's a difference.
Any match, can't it?
Exactly. Yeah. So I saved myself for the competition. It was a nice experience. Definitely, I wouldn't recommend anyone who doesn't go on the mat for a long period of time to just turn up to a European Championship and expect themselves to perform the way they normally would. Firstly, I didn't know the rules properly. Secondly, I could feel within the first competition that my steam was running out because I had been jogging. There's a very big difference between running fitness and physical muscular fitness.
Yeah.
As soon as these guys started tugging me around, I could feel my wind going, rapidly. And I realized, what they were telling me, you need to get on the mat and start fighting. Had I gone a few more rounds, which I didn't, unfortunately for me, but I wasn't unhappy about that because I knew the circumstances I was going into it under. But had I gone some more rounds, I would have been puffing.
Has that spurred you on to get back on the mat? Is that something?
Definitely. I'm aiming to because despite me going there, I didn't feel out of my depth. I felt as though I was nursing an injury, and also I felt that my fighting stamina had suffered because I just hadn't been fighting. But skill wise, I didn't feel at any disadvantage.
Yeah, you can mix
so I felt that, had I been in my usual form, it would have been a different story. But it is what it is. I'll be back. I'll just work back into it slowly this year, but I'm not. I'm going to actually fight at a heavier weight because I did discover, as I said, I was trying to get down to under 81 kg. I actually went all the way down to 78 by the time I did the competition, and I was trying to turn it around because I didn't want to be too light in the category. But for me, controlling diet and weight and so on is a new thing that I've been doing. So I had to spin it round quickly and stop that loss, of weight and strength. My strength was diminishing to some degree as well. And I, hadn't quite got that down pat. I think I've slowed it now. I'm about 77, and I'm trying to go back up to about 84 because I've decided if I do compete again, I'll compete in the next category up where the guys are a little bit taller. I don't have to bend my knees so much because my knees is what I discovered. These other guys, I was one of the tallest in my category because I was lean and slim.
Yeah.
And some of these other guys they're making weight, but they're short and stocky.
They're shorter guys, yeah.
Which means I have to stoop down to get, and my knees just can't take it. So I'd rather go with the bigger guys who are my height. So, it's a strategy and, experience down the line. So you can't do things the same way that you would have chosen to do when you're younger. You can't bend your knees. You can't bend your knees.
No, tell me about it.
All you can do is try and strengthen them. That's it.
So when you decided, right, I need to lose weight, I've been going to the gym. So you obviously been working out. You probably hadn't been working out, as much or as high intensity as you probably had liked.
Mm-hmm.
What was the catalyst though in terms of, was it just changing your diet that got you? Because, the before and after, and I'll put the before and after photos on our Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
For me, losing 14 or 15 kilos, people think, well, okay, where's it gone? You don't really notice it. But for someone like you who's gone from in the low to mid 90s down to the early 80s, sort of high 70s, it's a massive change. It really is a massive change. And you look like two complete different people.
Different people, yeah.
Absolutely. And, I'd be hitting up all the modeling agencies if I was you for looking for the, the underwear promotion jobs. But was it diet or just exercise or a combination of both?
It's a combination of both, but definitely the dieting. And I say the word dieting because I don't feel like I was dieting really.
Right.
Initially, I started off dieting, but it wasn't a massive diet. It was an idea I got from my older brother actually, because I watched him lose a lot of weight, and he was already quite slim, but he just lost a load. And he said he just didn't eat at lunchtime. Now I thought that's going too far.
Yeah.
So what I had been doing, my general diet before I decided to look after my weight situation was over lunch. I'd have a normal breakfast, probably porridge, a banana, I'd eat when I felt like eating in the morning, but definitely lunchtime I'd be down at Nando's, or
Yeah.
I'd go to. I had good solid portions, and I'd go home in the evening, and whatever my wife had on her plate, I'd have twice as much, and then
Yeah.
anything the kids left, I'd clean that up as well,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
I'd snack all the way till I went to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my daily routine.
Yeah.
Now, when I decided back in August that August 2017, that I'm going to start shedding some of this weight, the first thing I thought, because I knew nothing about dieting at this point, is let me try something to some degree like what my brother said he did. So the one thing I did was I decided, well, two things. I slightly lowered my portion sizes. I didn't stop eating anything.
Yeah.
Just made my portion sizes probably a little bigger than my wife's instead of twice as big.
So you just started consuming less.
Yes, I just started consuming less. What I call now a normal portion. Yes. Now that is an absolute no. If I eat more than that, I feel like I'm going to explode. But somehow I think I'd stretched my stomach to the point that it didn't feel full before. And I had needed massive portions to fill my stomach. So that was one of the first things. But I just did it very gradually. But the biggest change I did was at lunchtime, I started consistently, and it's boring, but I had chicken and vegetable broth from the supermarket. And that's all I ate at lunchtime. And by the time the first month I was coming home, I was so looking forward to my evening meal. Because, I was like, I really need to eat. Yeah. But the effect that had is my stomach must have started shrinking, because after a month, I didn't feel that craving so strongly anymore. So I was training my stomach to not need that midday massive meal. I was still eating, but just not as much in the midday meal. And that was the only big change I did.
Did you find any effect on your energy levels or anything like that?
I felt good. I felt good. I just felt a little hungrier, really. I could come home in the evening previously and I wasn't really thinking about food because I'd been eating every time I felt hungry. Whereas at this point, I wasn't snacking in between. I was just eating my meals and so on. So that started training my stomach to not need masses of food.
Yeah.
But I was still eating everything. I was eating sweets. I was eating cakes. I was eating. Yeah. And when I don't like saying this generally to people because I don't want to encourage people to do it, but that is a reality of it. I didn't cut out things I liked.
Yeah.
The next step was I got to January and a friend suggested to me intermittent fasting.
Right.
I'd never heard of it. Yeah. I'd never heard of it. In start of January, I'd never heard of intermittent fasting. And he sent me 2 links. So I started Googling them. And more I read about them, the more they just seemed to make practical sense to me. And what I liked about them is they never talked about, these articles I read never told me to cut out the stuff I like. They just told me, control your eating and eat during certain periods and stop eating during certain other periods. Yeah. So I came across various kind of techniques people use when they're doing intermittent fasting, and pretty much all of them I ruled out. They're too, for me, they were too intense. Yeah. Taking 2 days, 48 hours of fasting here or 24 hours of fasting. No, that definitely didn't rock my boat. And then I came across this other technique called the lean gain method, where as a guy, you eat for 8 hours of the day. Yes. And you fast for 16.
Yep.
And most of that.
Does it matter what 8-hour period that is?
Doesn't matter. You fit it into your day, whatever's practical for you.
So as long as you're getting 16 hours, as long as you're getting 16 hours without having any food, obviously you're drinking water
water, or, I'd call it a cheat, but I used to drink large cups of tea with a teeny touch of milk just because I can't stand tea without milk. But that's a cheat. Really shouldn't even have the milk. But the whole thing is, when you're dieting or fasting or doing whatever you're doing to control weight, don't do something that you can't be consistent doing. Yeah.
Can't sustain.
So cutting things out that you really, really know at some point you're going to go on a binge to get it, it's no point doing it. So this is where intermittent fasting made sense to me and it sounded doable. So I said, I'm going to have a go at that. And the lean gain method is one of the ones that they say a lot of people who go to the gym who want to maintain muscle mass, that's the one that is recommended. For women, they say they eat for 10 hours and fast for, 12
hours. Yeah.
Is that right?
14
hours.
14
hours. They fast for 14 hours. So, and the other one is fast for 16 and eat for 8. So for men. So, I worked out my schedule and I worked out for me what is good is for me to start eating at 11:30 in the day.
Yes.
And stop eating at 7:30 in the evening because that gives me a chance to get home just after 6 o'clock and eat with the family. The family meal,
which is important.
And then by 7:30, yes. And then by 7:30, I just say that's it for me. And 8:30, I'm helping get the kids to this. So it's kind of like I've got distractions after that. Yeah. And then I might have one big cup of tea and I just go to bed.
Yeah. But it's not a case that you've then decided, because I've gone plant-based, you know, I haven't had any meat or dairy for nearly not quite 5 months, but getting there. And because I'd made little changes in the past, but as you say, very weak-willed and, you know, binged and go crazy. And before you know it, you've downed 3 pizzas and some beer and, you know, you've ruined whatever you did. But this has been a really good change for me. But I was talking to Chris Massey the other day, who was my very first guest on the podcast, because I have plateaued a little bit with my weight. And you still can eat a hell of a lot of food when you're just eating vegetables, you know, so it's not a case that you're tiny portion. So portion control is probably an issue too for me. But also intermittent fasting came up. So it's a lot of people talking about it. I know Drew Manning, who's the fit to fat to fit guy that I had on the podcast, he's a big advocate for intermittent fasting. And it seems to be that it's a healthy way to control what you're eating, because as you said, you haven't had to cut anything out. Mm-hmm. But the results you've seen, you obviously saw a real spike in terms of getting some results once you started doing the intermittent fasting. You know,
exactly.
I saw some photos. You were going along quite nicely, and then you completely changed.
Yeah. Here's what happened. The first bit I described to you when I was just doing the dieting, as it were, with the broth, chicken broth. Yep. It was going down steadily, slowly. It was going down.
Yeah.
But my weight was going down, but my fat percentage, because I have a Fitbit scale that measures my, the fat content as well. Yep. My fat content was generally staying around the same. So what was I was trying to work out, what am I losing here? Is it muscle? Yeah. I wasn't quite sure what I was losing, because the percentage was still always around 21-22%.
Yeah.
I started off at 25 at the start, but it got to about 21, 22 and hovered there for ages and ages. When I started the intermittent fasting in January and I looked at the graph, it started drawing, it suddenly plummeted, went into another angle. And my fat percentage went down to 16%.
Wow.
So my weight was still going down, but my fat percentage suddenly accelerated and started dropping drastically. And that is what intermittent fasting is effective at getting rid of fat.
Because it starts using your fat stores when you're not eating.
That's right. It starts hitting the fat stores because it uses up all the sugars out of your body. And then it has to go to the fat stores for energy.
Yeah.
And that's the trick. And that's the bit that made sense to me. When it sounded simplistic, I read it. I just literally posted it on my social media and said, you know what, I don't know anything about this, guys, but I'm going to try it and I'm going to come back and let you guys know how it's been working for me. And the pictures told it all.
It's unbelievable.
Dropped off. Yeah. And I'm telling you, I was eating cakes, sweets. And I didn't want to tell anyone the amount I was eating. I didn't change a thing. I was eating everything I ever felt like eating. I just made sure I ate it in those 8 hours. And after that, I didn't eat it anymore. And I was eating healthy, but it just meant if I felt like a Mars bar, I went and had a Mars bar.
Yeah.
Whereas I hear some people when they're dieting, it's like everything is a cheat, or I'm being naughty. You know, you hear that comment all the time. I never once used that term that I'm being naughty. I'm like, it's my 8 hours. I can eat what I want.
Right. So there's a lot of negative. There's a lot of negative stuff with the term diet, isn't there? You know, and I guess that's unfortunately that's just the way it is through the diet industry. So you actually just with changing the way you ate wasn't necessarily the foods you ate, and were you compensating and thinking, right, I've got to eat more in this 8 hours to try and compensate?
No. All I was doing was I ate exactly my same meals. People think, you know, I bump into guys in my kitchen because I'm going in there at 11:30 and they're getting ready for lunch.
Right.
And they're like, "Oh, you're having." I tell them I'm eating intermittent fasting. They say, "Oh, so you mixed breakfast?" And I'm thinking, "No, what do you see on the table? It's porridge. I'm having my breakfast now."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh," so I get all these questions. I'm like, "Look, guys, I'm eating exactly the same meals. I'm having breakfast. I'm eating a snack. I'm having lunch. I'm eating another snack. I'm having dinner, and then I'm stopping eating. I'm still having 3 meals a day."
So someone that didn't know you're intermittent fasting, a new person in the office, geez, that Neil can eat. He's eating all the time.
Yeah, that's the joke that people always say. I always see him in the kitchen. He's always in the kitchen, you know, cooking something up. But it's because I'm squeezing my 8 hours in.
Yeah, and you're seeing you lose weight. What sort of magic's going on here?
But everyone noticed it. Everyone noticed it because 2 stone in less than 9 months. People saw my trousers falling off me, and so when they were like, "What's happening to you?" I said, "Look, guys, this is by choice. I'm not ill. I just decided that I want to lose the fat. Once I got down to about 16%, I still want to lose the fat. So I'm now upping my calorie intake a lot. I eat 3 eggs during the day. I snack on them all through the day. I have slightly upped my intake of chicken. The chickens are suffering again, unfortunately. You know, I'm upping my protein quite drastically now because I've decided I want to pack some muscle back on now.
Are you changing you're changing your workouts accordingly for that, or?
No, I'm just still doing my 3 days a week weight training. I always weight train 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday in the morning when I go in early. But I always follow my weight training and any other training with at least 45 minutes to an hour of stretching and calisthenic type work.
Does that include all, you know, because I've seen you doing bar muscle ups and things like that. Is that part of that 45 minutes?
That 45 minutes, and that's the fun part, actually. I don't do a routine of muscle ups. I tend to do them. I do everything else. I stretch. Stretching is the big thing I'm doing. I'm on the ground doing bridges, training my splits. I'm training my shoulder flexibility and so on. And just rolling around. People see me rolling around on the floor. They think, what's he doing? But it's actually a form of stretching, just moving. You're not statically stretching in one position. You're trying to move through from position and transition from position to position. That's how you move nicely. Otherwise, you end up with this kind of jerky kind of movement. So I do that for quite a long time. And then at the end, when I'm feeling nice and limber and everything, I just say, just before I go, let me do a couple of muscle ups. See how many I can do.
Just a couple
and so,
of
so that's what I do. What triggered me was the personal trainers in there. They're always on there doing them or practicing, trying to learn them or whatever. So I'd been watching them for about 2-3 months. And then one day I thought, I wonder if I could do it. And I hadn't ever tried. I didn't have the guts to try, I suppose.
Have you ever done a muscle up before that? Like when you were young?
Never.
No.
Never. I've never, ever done a muscle up. But the weird thing is I've lost 2 stone. So I was feeling extremely light. Yeah. And I'd been doing a lot of, as I say, chin-ups and various other things, but not trying to muscle up. So I jumped on the bar this day and I just kind of pulled myself up as fast as I could to see how high up my chest could go. And I thought, that was pretty high. So the very next go, I'd been watching a video about how to place your hands. So I knew the grip and so on, how gymnasts would do it, because there's different ways of doing it. But having a background in gymnasts, I always followed the gymnast advice. So I jumped on, held onto the bar like that, and just went, bam. And I went straight up over the bar on my second try. And I thought, whoa. So then I jumped down, I came down, and I jumped on the bar again, and I did 3. And one of the personal trainers turned around and he said, how long have you been able to do that? I said, just now. I said, I've never tried it before.
Unbelievable.
You know, so it was a shock to me, but I know I wouldn't have been able to do that because hanging on a bar the year before felt like torture.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Losing that 2 stone and moving around and trying to get more mobile, I just felt good on the bar. And now I just try and make it a fun thing I do at the end of every workout. I just try and do a few muscle ups.
That's fantastic.
That's it.
The gym that you go to, because you've got bars and things there, is it one that a regular gym plus some functional fitness, CrossFit style stuff?
It's got all the normal stuff, but it's got it's gym box, which has a lot of it's a big functional fitness area. They've got a boxing ring, big frame for bar work rig. And so on. Yep. They've got bars all over the side of the wall. They've got ropes. Yep. They've got rings, pull-up rings. Yeah, they've got a lot of variety of things there. And that's why I like that gym, because I've been to other gyms where they have some of that, but in a smaller concentration. And generally, if you go in and start doing these kind of exercises that I want to do, most people stare at you. Like, you
start rolling around the floor in
there. It's far more. There's a lot. I'm not the only one who's doing it. There's a couple of other guys that do similar-ish kind of training to me.
Is that sort of Ido Portal movement sort of stuff?
Yes. Yeah, it's that and gymnastics and calisthenics. I can never say that word, but
calisthenics.
It's those sort of things. I would say there's a couple of us, maybe 1 or 2 of us, that do the Ido Portal type stuff. Right. A lot of them are more into the calisthenics type training,
and that's building strength, isn't it? That movement stuff is not flexibility, it's also building strength in your body.
Yes, it's a combination of gymnastics and dancer strength, and just general movement. I mean, my background, things I've done to some degree over the years have involved dance, have involved martial arts, have involved gymnastics, and anything that involves some kind of movement. But they're the 3 things I would say I've done quite a lot of. And
I wanted to talk to you about dance. I think you're starting a worldwide movement. You're starting a worldwide movement for stretching sessions, but I think you're starting a bit of a worldwide movement with your dancing sessions. Is it something like dancing, or
that was what was I doing there? I just
something for the ladies, I think, Neil. That was what it was, wasn't it?
I'll tell you what I used to do. Before I had children and I lived in a house on my own, I was really obsessed with jazz, salsa. As a child, I did a lot of breakdancing. Right. The breakdancing stopped kind of in around age 16, 17, so I didn't do much of that. But I did other forms of dancing to some degree in my 20s, I suppose, a lot. And then in my 30s, my knees were really starting to give me a lot of problems. I couldn't do any extreme kind of dancing anymore. So I found salsa was something I could do because it was mainly standing up and just with a partner, and I'd never done partner work before. So I did that. But doing that and my background with jazz and so on, I kind of like jigging around, as you saw in the video, and it's great exercise. And I used to do it a lot when I lived on my own. I had mirrors on the wall and I'd do it. It's funny, since I had have the children around and the family, and I live in a smaller flat now, I just don't dance as much as I.
The kids would love it. The kids would love to dance. Dad.
Yeah, so we do sometimes jig around, but as soon as they left the house, I put on some old school 80s, 90s hip hop, and I was there, and I was supposed to be tied in the place, and there's some great tracks came on, and I just found myself starting to prance around in the room, and then I thought, I'm feeling so good, I'm going to film myself.
Film it. Well, I might even put that on.
And then I looked at it and I thought, the old boy's still got some moves. So I thought, let me speed this up and comically squeeze as much of it into this Instagram 1 minute video. So that's where the speeding came out. And then it just looked, I showed my wife it and my kids, and they were in stitches. So I said, okay, that's worthy of Instagram.
Better watch out. They might be casting a new stage version, Full Monty or something. You might get a call.
No, it was good fun. I might do a few more of those now that I've seen the reaction people have when they see it, because he's had a lot of views. I was surprised. It's beating everything else that I've done seriously.
Brilliant. And I love the video, and I tuned into the live video about the stretching session in the park. That was great. And the kids were joining in. They were jumping in and out, and they were joining in, and you had your mate there with you. That's something I reckon that, you could really build a real good little community of people that, because we have all these wonderful parks. I live in a city that the city is surrounded by parks, and it's awesome. We've got so much open space. We're very lucky in Australia. We don't have as many people as most other countries, but we've got all open space, and we're sport mad. So we've got all these green ovals, cricket ovals, football ovals, but they don't get used. People walk their dog, but, something like you are doing, a group where you get out there, because you don't need any equipment to do what you are doing.
You don't, exactly.
And I think that's just a fantastic thing. And is that something you're trying to foster by doing that?
Yeah, definitely. It's something I want to. I've started, I've got my Facebook group that I've just literally started, Bearded Angel Movement, which is on my site. So what I want, I'm hoping people will start tuning in when I just do these free sessions. And they're not sessions where I'm necessarily teaching. I do talk about technique and how to do certain things, because I am aware people who might be tuning in might not be at the level where they're confident to just jump straight into something. They want to actually learn what you need to do to get to that point. So I talk for their benefit. But other than that, I just want people to start tuning in and hopefully get to the point that they start posting into the group and just showing things to encourage others to have a go at this. Did you think about trying that? And it's for any level. And I definitely want to encourage older guys like myself. I mean, the person who was in the video with me is my older brother, who's 51, 52
well, he was
in
going
a few weeks. Yeah. So he's me and him are 1 year apart in age, and we are competitive. He's a bit quieter than I, so he's quite happy to sit in the background. But guaranteed, if he sees me do something, he's trying to do it. And if I see him doing it, I'm trying to do it. We've done all the same things together growing up. So no matter what people say to me, I'm always thinking, thank God Anthony isn't here. He'd make me look normal. I take all the compliments when he's not around, but I know there's another guy that can do stuff that I can do.
Well, look, and it'd be great to tune in and see like a whole swag of people behind you, doing.
That's
and all
what I'm trying to do.
Yeah,
I'm trying to. What I want is people to join in online if they can't get there. But I've had a number of people that wanted to be there. A few people couldn't be there because I kind of left it either last minute to let people know, and other people just weren't around. But I've got a handful of people that want to come and actually be there with me doing it. And if other people are happy to come and join in, at least while we've got the good weather, just come down. I'm going to do it, try and do it every week until the good weather runs out. I just look at the calendar leading up to the weekend, and I try and see, is it going to be nice weather Saturday or Sunday? And one of those days I'm going to pick and try and head down there and just do it.
Then you never know, mate. You might be able to move it inside to the gym or something. It's just depends on who.
Winter comes, we are looking to move to a house. We get the house, then we move it to the house. Right now, the flat is a bit of a test.
And your wife's, who are all these people in the lounge room? So no, look, that's amazing. That's what I've found with just putting all this stuff on Facebook, doing the podcast, and I'm sure you can agree too with what you've gone through in your journey. And I keep saying this, and people probably get sick of me saying this. There's so much positivity, from people that jump on board. Look, there's always going to be negative, and there's negative in every walk of life, but there's so much positivity out there.
The majority.
Genuine stuff, genuine people saying, I have been watching your videos, keep it up, you're doing great. They don't necessarily say that on Facebook or on Instagram, but if you bump into them at work or in the street, it gives you a real boost, and it feels though you're doing something really worthwhile. And, and have you felt that as well in what you've been doing?
100%. That's why I think I'm still going. Yeah. I'm going because I feed off of the feedback that I get. And I remember when I posted those dodgy pictures back in August.
Yeah.
How you wouldn't believe how long it took me to pluck up the guts to do it, because in my younger days, I was in reasonably good shape. Before the kids came along, I was in reasonably all right shape. I wasn't in the best shape at that point because I'd had a car accident. I hadn't exercised at one period for about 2 years. I hadn't done anything. I wasn't working. I was just at home for almost 2 years doing nothing and feeling depressed and, sorry for myself. So that was, I've re-engaged myself into all of this more than once. I got back to a certain point, but then, the family came along, and then I just slowed down again. And in the early years, I was very I suppose, adapting to having children and so on. I just felt tired all the time. I thought, okay, it's time to just slow down and so on. But, the same thing, I say this to everyone, the same thing that slowed you down, that you blamed being a parent, having children, is why I'm the way I am.
Yeah.
The funny thing is it's the same thing that got me out of it. Once my kids got into class and I wanted to help them, they were my biggest catalyst to shift all the weight again.
Yeah.
So
that's your why. That's your why.
It's a choice, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's right. And we've said this a lot. It's a choice between staying in bed, getting up. It's a choice between, what you've done in terms of making a change to the way you eat that suits the way you train and suits the way you live. For me, the vegetable, vegan sort of stuff's working well. For you, the intermittent fasting is obviously working well. So it's people are getting pushed and pulled in all directions when they're trying to make a change, but it's just about finding something that works for you, because we're not on here to say you have to be a vegan or you have to give up this. Just find something that works for you. And you did a little bit of trying to juggle, you changed one part of what you ate, and then that worked to a certain degree, and then you moved on to something else. Exactly. There's no problem doing that, is there? You can do that.
There isn't. You just got to give it a little time to see because you don't, sometimes I think maybe someone doesn't give it enough time to see the change. I mean, I could see my weight going down. I could see the fat saying it was coming off, but I couldn't physically see it on my body initially.
Yeah.
Then I left it a couple of months and I took a photograph and then compared. And then I noticed something's changed there. Yeah. And I posted it and everyone said, yeah, something's changed. Yeah. So then I carried on, but then I started actually feeling that my trousers started falling off me. And once I started noticing it, I got more excited to maintain the road. I would carry on that road, but sometimes you need to just wait long enough to see that what is showing on the scales is actually really happening, because I think people want to see it rather than see the numbers.
Yeah. And they want to see it quickly.
Yeah. It's shifting from somewhere, but maybe not off your waist.
Yeah.
This is the thing. Coming off somewhere, you just can't see it yet, because the bits that you want to see it your face, your around your back, you know, they're the last bits that he might decide to shift, but it's coming off somewhere else. For us guys, we're packed up inside our rib cage. It's crushing our organs. Yeah. The fat is all up in our gut and it's crushing everything inside. So when you start seeing the fat saying it's going and you can't see it, you know where it's going from? Inside your rib cage. It's coming off of there. And that's why I've become very lean around my rib cage. I can pull my stomach in and look like a skeleton now. I have tried that for years. And all I see is that it just stays flat because there was so much fat in there that, you know, there was no chance of seeing my abs.
I've really noticed it with me. If I take, it took a while, but then I'd take an armful of stuff out to the rubbish bins outside, and I'd get halfway out there, and my jeans fell down around my ankles. So I'm standing in my driveway, in my jocks.
Good feeling, eh? Good feeling. The first time your trousers are falling off and you felt good.
And then I have to shuffle to the bin, unload all the stuff, pull the pants up, and try not to scare too many neighbours.
But I bet you that gets you going, doesn't it? You know, one of the best things to inspire you is knowing your pants are going to fall off and you need a belt.
Sometimes I walk into the kitchen, just with my pants are on my thighs, and I let them drop to my ankle. I say, "Look, it is," to my wife, and I say, "It is working." Because those closest to you can't always see it, because they see
you every day. Yeah, they see you every day.
They're not always.
They must notice that, because if you're anything like me, your mood has improved to some degree. I feel a lot more invigorated. I talk about doing stuff with excitement all the time now.
Well, your face, this whole interview, your face, your eyes, super alive, you look super happy, and it's great. You know, it's a positive thing. It's, you know, you bounce energy back off people. And I'm a completely changed person as well. You know, I've come from a long way back and I'm still a long way back from where you are, but you feel amazing. It's really,
and you love talking about it. You love sharing it with other people. Yeah. It's nothing boastful. I feel I have anything to boast, but what I want and I would love is others to just see, look, we saw the shape you were in.
Yeah.
And in a short space of time, just because you made the decision, you went from that, to the point that now you've been through it, you can actually help guide someone else who maybe thinks it's too difficult.
Yeah. Have you noticed that at work? People have maybe made a change, or people in your life have made a change because of what you've done?
I know about 11 people have started intermittent fasting in the last few months.
How good is that?
At work, various other places, people just tell me, I've been doing it for 2 weeks now, or I've been doing it a month. And they come and tell me specifically because they saw what he did to me.
Yeah.
And so they're fasting. A lot of them are contacting me talking about, that's why I started doing the park thing, because I started getting hit up private messages about stretching, about how do you get to that point of stretching. So, you know, people who don't know my background, that I did gymnastics, not competitively, but I still did it for a number of years. I danced. A lot of the things that I did required a degree of flexibility training, which is why it's something I've always tried to do to some degree, apart from when I've been injured. But I know how to do this stuff. No matter how big or fat I got, I knew how to maintain my flexibility, or if it goes, I know how to get it back. And I lost a lot of flexibility through my 30s. I was just like every other younger man, weights. And I neglected stretching. I wasn't doing gymnastics anymore. And I was all about looking buff and, you know, pulling the ladies. And the injuries started flying in. I don't know what's happened, Paul. I'm just going to tell you, I can't hear you right now.
Sorry, mate.
Now I can hear you.
I had the mute button on. I was just saying, And it is a trap because my whole sporting life, we did, bench press, curls, all that sort of stuff in the 80s. And we did, the odd hamstring stretch and the calf stretch, and that's up against the thing because I was a football player. But, none of us ever got anywhere near being able to do the splits. None of us were really that flexible. And then you have all those injuries. You have your hamstring injuries, your calf muscles that you pop and all this sort of stuff. And then once that happens, it's a constant battle to stay fit and healthy. Like as we get older and, you see it all the time, dad goes out and he runs in the park and kicks the soccer ball with the kids. And next thing he's done an Achilles tendon.
Exactly.
So, and that's something I've really got to work on now is trying to get some flexibility. I've always been able to touch my toes and all that sort of stuff, but that's not flexible. What you're doing is flexibility. And it's a skill you've got to work at too, isn't it? You can improve just by working at it.
You can, to get to what I call, to get to the point that people start commenting on how flexible you are.
Yeah.
Doesn't take that long, but it takes some commitment.
Yeah.
But you do it in a couple of months. I mean, it's that last part that can take a few years.
Yeah.
To do splits and get down, I would say 6 inches off the floor in splits. You could do that. Even if you are extremely stiff, you could get there in 6 months if you stretch properly.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can get there and you can stay there. And that allows you to do so many things better.
Yeah.
But that last 6 inches takes some effort because that's the point you get where your ligaments are tight and various other things come into play. But that initial part, you can go from, I don't know, 2 feet from the floor down to 6 inches rapidly.
Yeah. And that's got to help you too, as we're all getting older and, I'm 50 now, I'm 51 this year and you're approaching 50 and you don't want to think about it as a man, but you start getting into your 60s and 70s and then you got to start worrying about if you fell over, you're going to, break a hip, whatever. Flexibility's got to help you in that situation, doesn't it? To be able to move quickly, soften the fall, whatever.
Flexibility is... I think, personally, I mean, this is my experience. There are so many physical activities I've partaken in and I've picked up easier than friends or colleagues of mine. And I'm thinking the only difference between us isn't strength. Some of them are far more stronger than me and so on. But often it's flexibility. There's something about my flexibility that allows me to do something easier just because probably I can put my body into the correct position. It needs to be body control. Just being able to flex your body or hold it in a specific position just makes you able to do a lot of moves that appear a bit difficult to other people. They've got tight Achilles, so they go to squat down and they start falling backwards.
Yeah.
But if you've got flexible Achilles, flexible knees, you'll squat down straight and it will not be a problem to you at all. No. But if you can have all the power in the world, but if you squat down and you can't go low enough, you're going to start falling backwards because everything's tight. It's a no-go for you right from the start.
You're not going to be able to use the strength
it's wasted.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's wasted. So that's why I think flexibility is so underrated. I call it the equalizer. I've always said that to people in judo because I'm not the strongest and I'm not the fastest.
Yeah.
But at judo, I always remember I escaped being beaten so many times because of flexibility. People would come in, they'd have a perfect sweeping throw. They'd get to the top of their flexibility range and I'd carry on going and take my leg off.
Yeah.
They'd sweep high and then I'd keep going up and just take my leg off of their leg.
Yeah.
Probably come down again and counter them or something. And and the guys would say, how the hell did you escape that? I'm like, because I'm flexible. I can do splits standing up. So unless you can do splits in a sweep, you've got to get the most perfect throw on me, otherwise I'll escape it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the guys have swept my leg away. I'm almost on the ground, and at the last second, I split my legs open, and I land back on my feet. And they're like, "How did you do that?" I'm flexible.
Yeah.
You know.
So it's been a
But had
massive
I been
change.
inflexible, I would have lost all those fights.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so there's a lot to be said about flexibility, and I think it's very underrated. It's sad that so many men, in particular, don't concentrate on it as much as they do on the muscles.
And that's where
girls,
yoga and those sorts of things can be really beneficial, can't they?
definitely.
Because that's a hard workout. Anytime I've ever done any yoga, which is not very often at all, I think I get to downward dog and I think I have to fart or something. So I have to escape the room. But that's a hard workout, isn't it?
It is, definitely. And I steal moves from yoga. I've never done a yoga class in my life. But if you see the exercises I do, yeah, I would say you'd say 20% of them are stolen from yoga, because they are, some of the stuff there is, well, not even some, so much of the stuff is fantastic. I just can't do half the stuff. But that's I take challenge. Yeah, this is it. I'm trying to get better and better that I can do as much. But I like mixing up a lot of aspects I like putting a lot of aspects from different things into my training. As I say, I learned a lot from dancers, because it's just fate for me. My gymnastics teacher worked in a dance school, Erdang Dance School in London. So when I went there on a Sunday, half of his class used to come to gymnastics. So you'd be doing gymnastics and half the class would be up on the runway where the mirrors are, spinning, doing jetés, doing tours, so I started joining in, and I learned a lot of dance, because for about 3-4 years I was with dancers all Sunday in the gymnastics club. So I picked up a lot of dance techniques. Then I had the gymnastics back. So I was lucky, I suppose, to have been exposed to a lot of these things that I kind of like can see the benefits of doing, of what dancers do. Yeah.
Dance and gymnastics are the two ultimate body control exercises, aren't they?
Yeah.
So having a mixture of those two. And I think it just gets back to us as men again, pulling our heads in a little bit, letting go of that ego and trying some stuff. Because whether it's like what you do, dance around your lounge room, you don't have to post it on Facebook or Instagram. You've got the moves, you can get it out there. But, for me, if I just started, that's just another form of movement. And the thing about, I really like variation too, because you can just get into the gym. If you're in the gym all the time, you're doing your bench, you're doing your squat, you're doing whatever, leg presses, whatever. It can become very repetitive and very boring.
Boring, yeah.
And that will wear on your motivation as well. So if there's something, that's why I get CrossFit. I've talked about CrossFit before. CrossFit excites a lot of people because it is a lot of variation. And what you're doing is probably not formally CrossFit, but it's probably a form of it, because you're doing some bar work, you're on the floor, you're doing some weights, all that sort of stuff. So you're doing variation. I think variation to most people is the key to longevity, to keeping them interested in the long term.
It is. I mean, that's why, the term movement, I don't know who coined that, but movement is what it's all about. And, I love using that phrase now. It's all about moving, just doing anything that involves you moving your limbs in positions that you wouldn't normally do if you were just, I don't know, going through your normal daily routine, going to work, getting on the train. Those things, you're not moving everything through its full range of motion, because there's absolutely no need to do it. So if you're dancing, you're going to throw your arms up. If you're dancing properly, you're going to throw your arms up. Even if you're dancing badly, you're going to throw your arms up.
Yeah.
But you're moving. I've seen people doing all sorts of stuff. I remember the first time I saw guys rolling around on the ground. Yeah. And I thought, oh, what is that all about? Till I started trying it. And then I realized this is real good stretching. It's actually they're stretching.
Yeah.
As you roll around, you can feel different parts of your body stretching that you would not stretch had you just been a static stretch.
Moves, everything opens up.
Your spine's moving. Yeah, your legs are extended. Your arm is extended for a split second in a position that you wouldn't normally be there, but you have to be there because of where you're moving.
Yeah.
So when you see people rolling, and you will see them, I've seen them all over YouTube, rolling around on the ground, and to the untrained eye, it looks like they're just rolling around on the ground. But they're not. Believe me, if you tried to roll around and look as graceful rolling around on the ground, you'd realize that there's a big difference between.
Well, mate, look, it's getting late. I know it's getting late where you are, and I think we need to just put a pin in it and come back to it at some stage, because, you know, we could talk about this stuff for hours.
Definitely.
But for someone that's, you know, just embarking, so whether at the stage where you are, where they need to lose 10 or 15 kilos, or someone like me who's the other end needs to lose about 60, where would they find you? You know, you're doing your stretching, you're doing all that stuff. Where would they find you on social?
I'm always I'm not posting as often as I should, but I will be doing more. Instagram is my main area for posting. Just inspirational videos and a bit of information. I always put information when I post. I'm on there as bearded_angel68. I'm born in 1968. That's where the 68 comes from. So bearded_angel68.
Yep.
I also have a movement page, Bearded Angel Movement, MVMNT, on Facebook. That's the group that I'm trying to encourage people who may be joining with the weekend stretching and so on, which I do via Facebook Live. I normally will post something to say I'm going to do it today, Friday, or I'll do it Saturday if I'm going to do Sunday. So I'm going to do one this Sunday. So I'll probably post tomorrow morning or tonight to say I'm going to do it at such and such time. It's normally around midday. I'll jump on, and I'm going to try and keep that going for as long as people are interested.
And those videos stay up there, don't they? So people, if they can't make it live, they'll check in. They can check in later on.
Exactly. And I'll make sure that any additional videos or you know, people who join in, I'm going to try and encourage them as well to post their videos into the group, Bearded Angel Movement.
I reckon that's great. Yeah, well, I'm going to try and post one up there for you, Neil. And
I would love to see.
You won't be judgmental. I know you'll be kind.
No, I won't be kind. I'll be honest. honest, kind.
And what about the podcast? Give the podcast a bit of a plug too, because I listened to it. Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm going to pick up on that a little bit more. I haven't done any for a couple of weeks, but it's a Do It Dad podcast. It's very much geared at inspiring dads who've been out of the who've lost their fitness, really, not just fitness, but maybe even their goals in career and so on, to just get going again. You know, it's a forum where I'm going to be interviewing people who are probably successful fathers or just everyday guys like ourselves who are getting on in life, and they just talk about what they've done to continue progressing and still be a family man at the same time. You know, because we don't want to. There's definitely no encouragement to tell a man to be an absconding father. That's the core, is to be present for parent, but still find time for yourself. You know, that's important. It's important for everyone that, you know, the dad in the family maintains his health and is happy. You know, and that's something I firmly believe. You know, I have had views from some wives who feel that you know, maybe, I'm not sure if I want my husband listening to that, and that's come from I'm talking to people like my own brother. Wives questioned me on that. I said, look, I'm not encouraging my brother to, you know, but he needs to remain healthy and he needs to look after himself. Otherwise, you know, we all have a point where our health is going to give in, and or even our sanity.
Yeah.
So, if you might be happy as a family man, but there are frustrations. We're human. We have our loves, our hobbies that we maybe have completely given up to become a parent at some point. But at some point, you've got to start thinking about your own happiness as well as keeping everyone else, allowing everyone else to be happy.
Yeah, because if you're just that one-dimensional person, you're not, you discovered with your dad when you went and did the judo classes that your dad wasn't that one-dimensional person. He had this whole other part to him. And I guess then your admiration for your dad grew even further from that. And what a great gift to be able to give your kids is that they don't just see you as this person that's telling them what to do all the time, or, grumpy person, just say, be quiet, I'm trying to watch TV. But you can give them other, you're interested in making model aeroplanes, or you're interested in cricket, you're still playing a sport. It's got to be so much better for family.
Well, I enjoy doing my podcast when I do it, which I'm going to be doing a lot more of. Now, my daughters are so excited when they see me or hear me talking, because they think Daddy is super famous.
Brilliant.
Daddy's on there. When they see me on Facebook, when they see me on Instagram, they're like, lots of people are looking at Daddy on there. Do you know what? It really does something for them. And you don't realize until you see their excitement that you are on what they consider TV.
Yeah.
And that people, they look at the numbers. So many people have liked what you've done. They're like, all those people have looked at Daddy. It has a massive effect, a bigger effect than you realize. And, I just look at their little faces.
Yeah. And a great example for them too, that if they have something that they really are passionate about and they want to do, whatever it is, it might be baking cakes, or it might, it's not about being Insta famous, but it's, well, I can do that. My dad does this and he does that, and my mum does this and she does this.
Mm-hmm.
I can do it, because a lot of kids and a lot of people, and I was one of these people. I wasn't when I was younger, but I killed that spark by being overweight and unhappy and just focusing on how bad I felt. A lot of people, they've got so much more to give if they just get out there and do something.
I tell you, you inspire me a lot. I look at, you don't always know when I'm checking you out, but I check out what you're up to all the time. And you really keep me going as well, because I'm looking at, I'm saying, Paul's doing it, I'm sticking with what I'm doing. I'm not going to let the side down. It's odd, isn't it? Once people start paying attention to what you're doing, it's one of the best drivers to keep you going, because you don't want to let them down either.
No,
absolutely. If they're looking at you and they are following your example, it's one of the biggest and best drivers to keep you going as well, because you really feel determined to help everyone follow and see that whatever they want to do is possible, you know, and that's how I feel. Every time someone likes something or comments, I think I felt like that relaxation next week, but I don't think it's going to happen.
No, I'm not going to do it. And I think that's a brilliant note to end it on, Neil. And thank you so much, mate, for making the time for me from sunny London. You don't get to say that very often.
It's great weather here, but thank you. Definitely, we're enjoying some of your weather. You've sent it over, so thanks a lot, mate.
What is the temperature there at the moment?
I'm not sure today, but it was warm, so it must be in the high 20s. High 20s, definitely. It wasn't as hot. The weekend was, that Sunday that you saw me, it was 30 degrees, and that was pretty awesome. I know Sunday supposed to be warm again. Yeah, people are complaining here. Can you believe it?
I live in South Australia, and we're the hottest state in the hottest country, and sometimes it gets to 45, 46. I would be complaining. They call off school sport, I think, when they get to about 40. So anything up until about 40 is fair game. I think over 40, they say, nah, come on, kids. Come inside and have a drink of water.
Well, you keep enjoying your weather, but we're having some of it here, and I'm happy for that.
All right, mate.
Okay, but we'll be on Sunday. So maybe if you get a moment pitching again like you did
I'll
last.
check it out. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to post a video of me touching my toes. That'll be my first video.
Yeah, I'm going to look out for that, Paul.
And we can work from there.
Yeah,
good on
I'll
you.
be looking out for that. All right,
Lovely.
mate.
Thanks, mate. Talk to you later.
Thanks for having me. Take